Frank Carver is a criminal who is about to be released from prison. He reminisces about the events that led to his incarceration. As a young man, he worked as an enforcer for a cruel mobster called Max. One day, Max and his henchmen were torturing a man who owed them money by hitting him hard with baseball bats. While Frank went outside to get the ball, Max went too far in the torture and murdered the man, shocking Frank, who tried to interfere but was too late. Being a naive young recruit, Frank later volunteered to take the blame for the crime, unaware he would receive a life sentence. Back in the modern day, Frank is having trouble sleeping. The prison doctor diagnosed him with insomnia. His condition is so severe that he was released from prison early.
If you don't sleep, you will die. Do you hear what I'm saying to you?
Frank receives his belongings from the guards and changes into civilian clothes. He leaves the building looking confused about his future, as he spent 19 years in prison and got accustomed to life inside. While walking away from the prison, Frank notices someone approaching him. It turns out it's his son, Joey.
You look, what, 19 years older than the last time you saw me?
Frank hasn't seen Joey since he was just a child, so naturally, Joey resents Frank for abandoning him. The two get into a cab and take a ride to Frank's old house, which is now occupied by another family. Frank exits the vehicle and approaches the house. He carefully sneaks behind the people inside and proceeds further into the woods, where he finds a small hut. Inside the hut, Frank finds Joey's toys and reminisces about the old times when he and his family had fun playing in this hut. He finds the location of his hidden money and starts digging a hole nearby. Frank retrieves a large chest. Inside it, he finds the $450,000 the mob left him and a bat that Max used to kill the man. Frank goes back to the cab that was standing there all this time, resulting in a comically large sum on the meter. Despite that, Frank is in a good mood. He shows Joey a rare baseball card that he used to own as a child.
I wonder what I could sell it for. It's gotta be a collector's item, right?
Surprised by strange remarks made by his son, Frank realizes that Joey is a drug addict. While riding in the cab, Frank looks outside and enjoys the beauty of rural America during the long drive. Having spent many years in prison, he enjoys the sensation of the wind touching his hand as he takes it out the window. The two arrive at an expensive hotel where Frank reveals to Joey that he's using mob money to pay for it.
After everything they did to us, I'm going to use every last dollar.
Joey initially refuses to take part in using this money, as he blames the mob for what happened to their family, but eventually changes his mind. The two are put in a luxurious suite and spend some time together in the hotel. It is revealed that Lorraine, Frank's wife, died prior to his incarceration, so Joey grew up in foster care. Despite Frank's claims to his son that he put his criminal past behind him, he desires to take revenge against the mob for what they did to him. Later that night, Frank leaves the hotel and goes into a crime-ridden neighborhood, looking for his friend Sleepy at his house. But instead, he finds a gang of young gangbangers who threaten him with a gun.
That's a .226 clone, one of the most unreliable firearms in the world.
Despite their hostile attitude, Frank proposes they get down to business. The leader of the gang, a young woman, explains that she's Sleepy's daughter and took over after her father's death. Being a gun dealer, she provides Frank with various weapons that he requires for his revenge.
Just dropping in on some old friends.
Frank pays a visit to the bar that is owned by his friend Sam Quentin, also known as Q, who was also involved in Max's crime syndicate 19 years ago. Q is glad to see that Frank is out of prison, so the two reunite happily.
Oh, they finally let you out, huh?
I do that sometimes.
Q has left the life of crime behind him and is now a legitimate bar owner, so Frank doesn't hold him accountable for what happened. It is revealed that Max died 6 years ago. Nevertheless, Frank wants to find his two key men instead, Jimmy the Dragon and Tank. Q is reluctant to give away their location, so Frank threatens him with a gun.
I swear, okay, I don't know where they are.
Don't lie to me.
I'm not lying to you.
Q assures him that he doesn't know where they are, but he is willing to help Frank figure out how to find them. Frank excuses himself to go to the bathroom. It becomes apparent that Frank's physical condition is deteriorating rapidly because of his insomnia. Going back to the hotel, he takes pills that were prescribed to him by the prison doctor earlier. Unable to find his son in the hotel suite, Frank gets worried and comically starts yelling his name.
Joey! Joey!
Joey is fine. He just wasn't in the suite. The two later spend time together. Trying to bond with his son, Frank buys him expensive watches, suits, smartphones, and even a luxury sports car. The two happily test the sports car, drifting through the parking lot. Later at night, they are approached by a questionable character named Trip, who offers them the chance to have a good time with his ladies. Frank initially declines the offer, but encouraged by his son, he gets acquainted with one of Trip's women called Simone, and the two later have intercourse in his suite. They get to know each other better and end up developing feelings for one another. Frank and Simone take a drive in Frank's car and stop near a nice view. They talk about Frank's past. Instead of Simone, Frank keeps seeing his dead wife, Lorraine. He drops her off at her house later, where she reveals her real name is Jennifer. Later that night, Frank arrives at the massage parlor owned by the mob. He takes out his gun and proceeds inside, where he finds a tattooed man in one of the rooms. The tattoo of a dragon tips off Frank that it's Jimmy the Dragon, the mobster he's been looking for. He quietly approaches Jimmy in the chair and aims the gun at him.
Prison life agreed with you. Look fit.
Frank tells the women to leave and tries to intimidate Jimmy, but he's not even a little bit afraid of him. In the conversation, Jimmy accidentally reveals that Max is still alive. Realizing his mistake, Jimmy attacks Frank and leaves the room in a hurry. He then ambushes Frank with a spray, after which they struggle. They end up outside, where Jimmy disarms Frank and continues beating him up viciously. While Frank is lying on the ground, Jimmy manages to escape. Frustrated by his failure to assassinate Jimmy, Frank goes back to the hotel where he is met by Joey. Frank avoids answering his son's questions, but then reluctantly reveals the truth.
I met up with Jimmy the Dragon, we had it out.
You killed him?
Sadly, no.
Frustrated by his setbacks, Frank throws away the insomnia pills he was prescribed earlier. Frank and Joey have a huge fight about Frank's revenge, where both say hurtful things to each other, shifting blame for everything that has happened. Joey says he wants nothing to do with Frank if he decides to go after the mobsters.
You walk out that door and I'm gone! You're never gonna see me again!
Frank leaves the room and drives away from the hotel. Later, he ambushes another mobster, Tank, in his butcher shop.
Tank. Man, no one's called me that in a long time.
Unlike Jimmy, Tank didn't have a life of mob luxury all these years and had to resort to menial labor long ago. He reveals that Max is living out the rest of his life somewhere in a nursing home nearby, but he doesn't know which one. Feeling guilty for what they've done to Frank, he doesn't want to fight him or run away and gracefully accepts his fate. Frank shoots him seconds later. The next morning, Q comes into his bar, confused to find Frank there, who is comically playing the piano while singing.
Some fellows look and find the sunshine.
He explains that it was the song that was played during his wedding dance with Lorraine. Concerned about Frank's mental state, Q tries to talk him out of pursuing his revenge fantasy. He invites Frank to his daughter's wedding. Meanwhile, Jimmy finds Tank dead in the butcher shop and gets rid of the body. Frank goes back to the hotel. In his suite, he looks for Joey but only finds a room service lady. Soon Frank has a seizure from his progressing insomnia. Collapsing on the floor, he tries to find a pill from the bottle that he threw away earlier, but it appears that a room service lady cleaned them up. She coldly leaves the room with little regard to what is happening to Frank. The seizure ends, and Frank gets up. He calls a hotel employee to help him. Frank seems to be suffering from early dementia. He asks the boy to call his son on his phone because he doesn't know how to do that himself, but it turns out that Joey's number is not on the phone. Frank asks the employee to find a list of local nursing homes on the internet. While he does that, Frank reveals that he's dying.
I'm dying. I can't sleep. Something wrong with my brain.
The conversation is interrupted by Tripp. He demands Frank pay for his date with Jennifer earlier and threatens him with a gun.
Hey, my behavior? That is completely up to you.
Frank pretends to go along with the demand, but then attacks Tripp. He takes hold of his gun and threatens the criminal.
I'll kill you, and I'll find everyone you love, and I'll kill them too.
Frank throws him out. Scared, Tripp comically runs away. The hotel employee who observed the whole thing rushes to leave, but Frank stops him and comically gives him the money Tripp tried to steal as a sign of gratitude. Later, Frank goes through the list of nursing homes, looking for Max. He receives a disturbing call from Joey.
I'm scared. Sure.
What?
Frank's phone gives him Joey's location, so he rushes to save his son. Frank arrives at an abandoned warehouse that is filled with drug addicts. He finds Joey unconscious. Realizing in terror that he's not breathing, Frank starts doing chest compressions. It works, and Joey regains consciousness. They leave the building and go back to the hotel, where Frank puts Joey in a bathtub.
I'm sorry, Daddy.
Frank reveals that the only reason he agreed to take the blame 19 years ago is because he was assured by Max and the rest that he would get 6 years at the most. They promised to give Frank $450,000 for it and take care of his son, so Frank foolishly agreed. Sometime later, Frank and Joey visit the cemetery where Lorraine is buried. In an unexpected twist, right near his wife's grave, Frank finds a grave with Joey's name on it that says that he died shortly after Frank went to prison. presumably killed by Max's crew. It becomes apparent that all this time, Joey was just a figment of Frank's imagination.
Max promised me they'd look out for you. Look what they did to you.
Frank couldn't deal with the psychological trauma of losing his son, so he imagined that Joey was still with him until he saw the grave that made him finally accept the harsh reality of his loss. As a last request, Joey begs his father to let go of the matter and move on with his life, reminding him of the famous line Frank taught his son, "Today is your day to try again."
Find some happiness for yourself for however many days you have left.
I don't deserve happiness.
Yes, you do.
Frank promises Joey to stop his revenge. He starts the engine and symbolically drives away from Joey, who keeps looking at him. Returning to the hotel, Frank puts the money into a bag and checks out. He finds out where Jennifer lives and greets her with flowers at the entrance. Repaying her kindness earlier, Frank leaves her the money, as he has no one else to leave it to.
Consider it a thank you for being kind.
While talking to Jennifer, Frank continues seeing his wife. She introduces Frank to her small son, who is coincidentally also named Joey, a symbolic detail as Frank points out. He says goodbye and leaves. Despite the promise Frank made to his son, he continues looking for Max in local nursing homes. He finally finds the right address and walks in, unaware that Jimmy is outside, watching him. A nurse escorts him to Max's room, where it is revealed that Max has been in a coma for the last 15 years.
I'm sorry you had to find out this way.
She leaves the room. From his gift bag, Frank takes out the bat. The same bat that Max used on that night 19 years ago, intending to kill Max with it. But he ultimately changes his mind once he realizes that it wasn't Max who killed his son, as he was already in the coma by that time.
I'm sorry. I've been blaming you.
He leaves the bat with Max and departs. Frank asks the nurse if she remembers who else visited Max throughout the years. She says there was only one man who called himself Q. Enraged by the revelation, Frank realizes that Q lied to him earlier. He was fully aware that Max was alive, but kept it from Frank. Frank leaves the building. Jimmy suddenly opens fire at him. While Frank takes cover, Jimmy maniacally laughs at him and mocks Frank.
Took you long enough to find this place, huh?
They exchange fire. Frank notices that Jimmy's legs are visible while he's hiding behind his car. He shoots him in the leg, making him lose the gun. While Jimmy screams in pain from his injury, Frank approaches him behind the car and aims a gun at him. He shoots Jimmy in the genitals and comically enjoys listening to his screams. Frank was wounded during the shootout. Despite that, he heads to the church where Q's daughter is getting married. Q notices that scared bridesmaids are running away from his daughter's room. He comes in, only to find out in terror that it's Frank who is holding his daughter hostage. Frank found out that it was Q who was running the organization after Max went into a coma, so he was the one who killed Joey. Holding a gun at Q, Frank tells his daughter to get out.
So you can kill him?
Just go.
But she doesn't want to leave her father. Frank has lost a lot of blood. In his delirious state, he accidentally shoots Q in the leg. An injured Q reluctantly admits that he ordered Joey killed, but only because he had no choice. Joey was a weak drug addict who was about to snitch to the police about Max's organization. Therefore, Q had to take him out.
You think I wanted to do that? Of course I didn't. I love that kid, and you know I did.
Enraged by Q's attempts to justify Joey's death, Frank gets up and approaches Q, getting ready to shoot him. However, reminiscing on what his son told him earlier, Frank changes his mind and decides to spare Q's life.
Today is your day to try again.
He symbolically drops the gun. In an unexpected twist, Q's daughter shoots Frank in the back, but only wounds him. An injured Frank slowly walks towards the entrance where arriving police units tell Frank to surrender.
Get down on the ground. Down on the ground!
Frank refuses and reaches for his gun. Multiple police officers open fire at him, giving Frank a chance to go out in a blaze of glory. Frank lies on the ground, dying from his injuries. While holding Joey's baseball card from earlier, he is once again visited by Joey's spirit, who comforts his father before his death. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.